Hello, I just wanted to clarify a few things I said in my first video. I didn't go into a bit more detail. I forgot a few things. I didn't really want to have to read off a script, but I'm going to, so I don't forget anything. I don't want to get the information out there. So yeah, it's as I mentioned in the previous video, I had a bit of a hard time with, I had a few things all at once. I had leukaemia, an abdominal aortic aneurysm and some kidney issues. This information really relates to the leukemia and sort of general stuff, but anyway, I'll read it out and hopefully it can be of some help. So when I got the leukemia diagnosis, which was a little bit over 5 years ago now, I was pretty fit. You know, I'm a mountain leader and that's my hobby as well, so I was in fairly good shape, but I really started getting into the studying nutrition supplements and practices as well, and spent so much time researching it, you know, books, watching videos, and I still do that now. You know, I'm still ongoing. So, like immediately after the diagnosis, you know, well before the treatment, I started taking high doses of turkey tail mushrooms. Now I can't remember exactly what I was taking, I'm afraid, but back then I'd experimented. I think I was on about 16 of those capsules a day. 8 in the morning, 8 at tea time, dinner time. It did sort of waver about a bit, but I was on pretty high doses, you know, for about 3 years, you know, through until that deteriorated, and as I went through the treatment as well. But you know, look it up. It is widely used, and there's loads of information out there. You know, I believe it's the most studied mushroom in the world. But anyway, I also used chaga mushrooms to a lesser degree, and cordyceps and reishi as well. I was taking a lot of turmeric with black pepper. I had that with food. The compound in turmeric, the beneficial compound, which is called curcumin, that is more readily available to the body if it's combined with black pepper and oily food, or you know, serve it with a meal. So I was taking 8,000 IUs of vitamin D3 a day, along with 200 micrograms of vitamin K2. I was taking vitamin C, vitamin E, that Zach Bush's Iron Gut and Microbiome formula, which I won't go into detail on that, but you can look it up. Red clover tea. I was picking my own red clover, and that's very beneficial, anti-cancer and other things. Probiotics, prebiotics, omega-3 fish oils. I started eating more fruit and vegetables, although my diet was reasonable anyway, including 2 kiwis a day, mangoes, pomegranates, blueberries, raspberries, blackcurrants, plus the usual other fruits. I started making kale and broccoli sprout smoothies and eating lots of garlic, but the vegetable stuff, you know, I wasn't as keen, and that didn't last as long, but it's certainly worth looking into. I also made my own daily juice, which I still make now, which is green apples, you know, the tangy ones, Granny Smiths, with carrots, ginger and lemon, and I really like that. So I've just had some actually. I also eat loads of tomatoes and make my own sauce. I have that with quite a few different meals, so I eat loads of it. You know, there's a compound in tomatoes, lycopenes, which are really beneficial for all sorts of things, but especially when cooked and combined with olive oil. Book I used was, well, one of the books I used, it's with diet anyway, was William Lee, that's a L-I, His book's called Eat to Beat Disease. You can find him on podcasts and things as well. There's a good podcast on, I think he's called Rangan Chatterjee. I might have got that wrong. But there's, his field is sort of angiogenesis, which is it's where blood vessels form, new blood vessels form to feed cancers, even liquid cancers like leukemia apparently. So foods that are anti-angiogenic, like the ones I was taking, some of them I couldn't get hold of, but kiwi fruit, pomegranates. So they can apparently inhibit the growth of these new blood systems and starve the cancers. Eat lots of nuts as well, almonds, particularly walnuts there, and dark chocolate, high cocoa, dark chocolate is really good for you. I had lots, and still do, lots of good quality fruit juice and Manuka honey. So that was sort of, that's what I initially did. More recently I've added a few more other things, because with having been through sort of chemo and immunotreatment, I am slightly immunodeficient with my lymphocytes camping down a bit, but I've been fine now. But so I've added a few other things more recently. So I take magnesium glycinate, potassium citrate, and a multivitamin. I've cut out table salt completely and replaced it with Celtic sea salt, which is lower in sodium and higher in other beneficial minerals. I've almost cut out seed oils, sunflower oil and rapeseed oil. And I use olive oil, butter and beef dripping or lard for things that I used to use seed oils for the cooking. I also add a few things to a fruit juice every morning. I'd have a big glass of fruit juice. The first bit I'd take my capsules and stuff, and the second bit I'll add in some powders, which is creatine. I'd have about 10 grams of creatine. I think the usual is about 5 grams, but a lot of people taking a lot more than that at the moment. Even people talking about taking 20 grams plus a day, but look into it. I put a bit of maca root powder in there, cinnamon, ground cloves, cayenne pepper, and a bit more turmeric and black pepper. And it's nicer than it sounds because there's plenty of cinnamon in there. I've cut down on refined sugar, but I still make a few things like flapjacks and things with black currants in out of the garden. I use soft brown sugar in those, so I haven't cut out sugar altogether. And I did when I was at the worst with the leukemia. I did eat a lot of sugar, to be honest, which is sort of contrary to what a lot of people will tell you, but it was because I'd lost a lot of weight and I needed sort of beefing up, and so I was getting homemade cakes made for me all the time, and I don't know, it didn't seem to adversely affect me, but I think generally speaking it's good to at least drastically cut down on refined sugar. What else we got? Fasting. I experimented with fasting, but when I'd lost the weight, that wasn't really an option. But it's certainly something to look into. You definitely look into fasting. I've heard some very intermittent fasting. Sort of eating within an 8-hour period in the day. That's a lot of people are talking about that at the moment. But don't let the diet thing become an obsession. It'd be pretty dull if we only ate for health's sake. Losing that joy of eating foods that you really like, it'd be really detrimental, I think. I still have things which, I like a glass of IPA every now and again, which, despite the alcohol, there's compounds in that which are good for us as well, the hops. William Lee talks about this. but yeah, obviously alcohol, you know, keep it to a moderation. That lifestyle things, I think I mentioned this, but I'll quickly go over it again. What I did is sort of cold water therapy, cold showers, wild swimming, meditation, breath work, earth grounding, which outdoors and indoors using mats, you know, sleep on an earthing mat. Something well worth looking into. I started getting into, you know, qigong, tai chi, type back stretches, exercises and things. And I've got this, a few of them combined now, which I find very beneficial. So mindful walking to a river, to a quiet river place, I don't know. Then I'll do some breath work, meditation, and then go into the water and meditate into the water, and together all those I find them really beneficial. And I think just generally how I am as well. I've always been a sort of heady, you know, sort of overthinker, so I've tried to sort of work on that and, you know, slow things down a bit. I'll say this again, I said this in the previous video, but I'd really believe this, you know, like going and doing the cold water therapy, it's a great analogy on life. I really believe that. You know, if we breathe into it, surrender to the flow, feel it all, you know, it's going to be a whole lot better. You know, that's obviously immediately obvious with going into cold water. You know, if you fight it, it's not going to be nice. But I think generally speaking in life, it's very true too. So it's after when I got the diagnosis for leukemia, it was about 2.5 years until it had deteriorated to the point of needing treatment, and I was offered immunotherapy and chemo combination therapy, which seems to be part for the course for leukemia now. It's you know, it's supposed to, you know, it's very, very good. Apparently, it's come on a long way, but I did refuse that. You know, they gave me a load of information, you know, on its possible side effects and things, and I wasn't really happy about it, to be honest. So I thought I'd try the natural way, and I was recommended a herbalist, but that didn't go well. And so I think that was my path. You know, I was, you know, this is what I had to do, to go through it and surrender to it, and yeah. So as I deteriorated, you know, I lost weight and it became very anemic, and so I realised that I had to go for the treatment. But as soon as I made the decision, you know, I rang them up and said I've changed my mind, and they were fine with it, and got me in really quickly, so that was great. So I was in 2 different cancer centres, and both of them were really, really good. The wards that I experienced in the hospital, less so, but definitely need some money in that department. But the cancer centres were great, you know, they really were. Well staffed, you know, great staff as well. So yeah, so I went for the treatment, but I increased my, particularly the turkey tails. I'd sort of dropped off a bit on that, I think, so I boosted that back up again. So I think I went back up to like 16 capsules a day of the turkey tail mushrooms, and I was also taking 12,000 IUs of vitamin D3, and there was, our dad spoke about all these things I've been taking with a lot of healthcare professionals. When I went in for the treatment, the guy in charge of the ward he seemed to be in the know about vitamin D3. So the only person I'd ever met who knew anything about it, or at least would divulge anything about it. And he said, yeah, good move. Because everyone in the hospital had COVID, you know, when I was in for my first treatment, everyone had it, and I got it as well. But I think, you know, even though I was pretty low with leukemia, you know, it was quite far progressed. and I'd had my first immunotherapy treatment, you know, and I had COVID. I still got over it pretty quickly, and I can't prove this, you know, but I'm pretty sure it's got a lot to do with the immune boosting supplements I was taking, and so yes, I did the treatment. That's all I did. It was 12 months in total, but there's sort of immunotherapy at IV, you know, through a cannula. That was every 4 weeks, and then 2 weeks, and then chemo tablets kicked in, got stronger and stronger. But didn't have any side effects at all, nothing at all. And the treatment worked like very quickly, you know, within about 10 weeks my blood was back to normal. Apart from slightly lower lymphocytes, you know, but that's because of the treatment. So yeah, you know, turkey tail mushrooms, look into them really, and all the rest of it. But yeah, I think that's about it. What I just wanted to go into, you know, because I wanted to do it, but not on a script, you know, but I kept forgetting things, and I was trying to do it, and kept forgetting, so I thought it'd be best to do it this way. So anyway, I hope that helps, and, you know, let me know, put in the comments, you know, if there's anything you'd like to know more about, or if there's something you think I might have missed, or whatever it is, you know, please get in touch, and yeah, thanks for watching, and you know, there's not many people these haven't found many people yet, so if you could subscribe and give it a thumbs up, that would be brilliant. Thanks very much.